I need to be getting on the road to nationals, but I didn't want to leave without first making a deck profile of what I'm actually going to be playing and winning with while I'm there. So I'm going to absolutely speed run this deck profile. I'm going to try and do everything in 5 minutes. I won't spend a lot of time talking about niche interactions and the like. But without further ado, the character that I will be playing for Nationals 2025 is Chaos Mimic. And Mimic is he's a cheeky little fella who kind of ignores the game mechanic of using foundations. I'm using assets instead of foundations, and so I get around all the board wipes, Burt 2, Godzilla, Colossal Detonation from Mimics. I get around those. I'm capable of adding massive damage, also a little bit of damage reduction. I play like an 8-hander as long as you check an asset on both turns. So that's the big draw to Mimic at the moment. What makes my Mimic different from other Mimics? And I am going all in on the Disarming Glance super combo. So this is a foundation that I don't see other Mimics running at even a 1x, and I'm running it at a 4x. It says that I can flip. After an attack is played, players cannot play abilities that add cards to their hand until after it resolves. So if I play this, and then it says after it resolves. So if I play this and then I stop an attack from resolving, I use like a Cape of No Return, right, to remove an attack before it resolves. Or I use a Dimensional Sphere before the damage step, I remove it. Or I use a Decoy Duplicate to discard it from the card pool. Any of these 8 cards combined with this means that neither myself or my rival can play abilities that add cards to their hand for the remainder of the turn, and not just that attack. Now, this is powerful just as is to stop cards, I don't know, like a Spirit Gun Mega, or like that 3 difficulty attack that adds a mid attack back to hand for the all Rodans. It's good just for cards like that, or like a Battle Aura release to keep them off of the draw. But it's especially good when we can keep it from resolving and keep our opponent from drawing for the rest of the turn. And this does not say non-character ability, so I can just basically shut off a Burt 2 on either the front side or the back side. I can shut off a Pony, and that's what I'm looking to do to survive these attacks that are just drawing their entire decks and playing insane attack strings, completely ignoring progressive very early in the game. So I'm all in on the Disarming Glance super combo. And before you rule shark me, Decoy Duplicate does work, because this says players cannot play abilities that add cards to their hand. And Decoy Duplicate adds a card to my rival's hand. So it is still playable with a Disarming Glance and keeps it from resolving. I had that double checked on the rules Discord, but I'm prepared for someone to call me on it tomorrow. Okay, next up, we have a couple struggling with studies and a couple chivalrous competitors. This is because I know that ponies are going to 4x. They're going to 4x seizing the advantage, and they're always going to try and flip my Disarming Glance. So these both give me flip protections, but struggling with studies is also adding a block back to my hand, or like a runaway back to my hand. Chivalrous is just nice draw, and it's stage protection for destruction, so both of them serve purposes there too. Into the attack lineup, of course, we have triple Determined Advance. This one, you cannot mess with the stats. Very, very good against like a Rodan type character. They either just have to eat it, get it out of the card pool somehow, or they're going to have to spend a lot of resources to block it. It's also going to snap Momentum, which is going to be big for this deck because I play 4x vertical maneuvering equipment, and it has EX3. So if I can get the speed up with vertical maneuvering equipment, if they take it back down, I can just EX it back up twice over. And a great card to pair with Determined Advance is triple Walk the Dog. Walk the Dog is really cool because Mimic, if you have a Walk the Dog in hand, and then you check an asset, you can go pick up a second one, and now you're going to get the draw 1 and then the draw 2. Pretty neat on the draw side, but basically we're just saying, hey, if you're going to block my Determined Advance, you're going to have to commit your resources to do that, and now my Walk the Dog should always be a 4-div. It's giving me draw. It has powerful. I'm going to really try and turbo Momentum in this deck, and just great base stats with the Stun 1. Walk the Dog is a weapon, so a great card to pair with Walk the Dog and Determined Advance is 2x Rapid Speed Slash. This says if you have Momentum, you can snap another Momentum or draw a card. It also has EX3, and it has Breaker 1. and it is a low attack to go along with Walk the Dog. So now I've got 5 weapons here, and both of these weapons are pairing really nicely as follow-ups to Determined Advance. And a great card to pair with weapons is Deception Dagger, because in Momentum, we can flip this to give our Momentum Stun 2. So we can make our Walk the Dog a Stun 3 Walk the Dog. And this is Discard Pile Manipulation. I think that Discard Pile Manipulation is very, very strong in the format right now. We see a lot of characters playing from their discard. For example, in the EU Nationals, we saw the Elder Toguro deck. Every single turn against Mimic was grabbing Luna Ring out of the discard and absolutely killing Mimic with it. With Deception Dagger, we could just say, hey, get that Luna Ring out of there. Or if we're playing against like a combined Firepower deck, we could say, get the Firepower out of there. I really like Discard Pile Manipulation. So a couple copies of Deception Dagger, I can go and pick it up. And now I've got a nice weapon package to add the Stun 2 to. Stun 2. To go along with the Discard Pile Manipulation, I'm playing a couple copies of Confused. This is flip. I can remove an attack from my rival's discard pile, and then this attack loses that keyword and cannot gain keywords. I was loving this against like a Recovery Girl the other day. They were playing a 4-check tribal Recovery Girl deck, and so they played a Titan attack. I flipped Confused. I removed a Titan attack from their discard pile, and I said, you lose Shift, and you now cannot gain Throw from Recovery Girl because you cannot gain keywords. So this is nice just to snipe. Like if I'm in a Mimic Mirror, right? I don't want them picking up their Determined Advances from their discard pile, so I'll just remove it, and now they don't have the option of going and picking it up. Yeah, and it gets around Throw. I really like it as a utility piece here. And then I've got 1x Forced Quirk activation. This is a little bit of stage control because I'm not running a lot. I just have this 1x and then like a 1x Vast Hybrid Chimera Kraken. But I can remove and add a card from my discard pile to my Momentum. So this Deception Dagger, even if I didn't hit with it, I can remove Forced Quirk and put a dagger in my Momentum. Let's keep going with the attacks here. And this is really the core of the attack list, but because I'm Mimic, I have a lot of 1x attacks. I can tutor attacks up to my hand when I need them. I can do that on defense to prepare for my offense, or I can do that in the middle of my offensive turn. So I have a ton of 1x cards because I want to have a toolbox type of deck. So we have the 1x Shocking Entrance. This is going to help us find the asset that we really want. I really depend on getting a vertical maneuvering equipment in my stage, so this is going to help me find it. Maybe I need a Cape of No Return or maybe a trigger. I'll go and find them. Next up, a trigger transformation. Speaking of trigger, we can build in by discarding a Momentum, or this attack just gets really big. It's basically a 4 difficulty, 5 mid 6 that says it gets a damage for each asset in my stage. So I want to have lots of attacks that are scary, right? So I might have a Determined Advance that gets big and I pour resources into it, and then a Walk the Dog that I powerful up, and then a trigger transformation that also gets big. So I'm only playing 1x of it because it's a 5 mid 6. It's not doing a lot as like a flow. It's not like a flow piece or a good poke attack, unless I need to discard the Momentum to get a trigger. But it's mainly there just to have a really, really free 12 damage move, typically. Then a copy of Phantom Threat. Again, I'm playing vertical maneuvering equipment so I can change the zone, and then this will go to my Momentum. Every single time I give it damage, which between soups and flasks and VMEs and the powerful on this, I'm going to be giving it a lot of damage. Then it gets a speed every time. It just gets really, really big. It's a threat that my rival has to think about. One copy of Vast Hybrid Chimera Kraken. Again, between this and Force Quirk are my only types of ways of looking at my rival stage and turning off things. It's not a lot. I'm hoping that it's just enough. One copy of Armored Titan Rush. I love Titan Rush. 6 mid 9, Ruin 1. They have to block this with an attack card. So sometimes you can just catch your rival with their pants down. They don't have an attack card. This is unblockable. They can't reduce the damage below 9. You're eating at least 9. And then this shifts into Reiner's Toughness, which just blanks out an attack, right? Reduce this attack's damage to 0. So I'm forcing them to block with an attack, and then I'm blanking out an attack on defense. I think it more than pays off the 7 diff. One copy of Cheerful Uppercut. A lot of characters are trying to ignore progressive at the moment. I like to tutor this up on defense, block with it. Struggling with studies, get it back to my hand, block with it again. And it can discard a Momentum to become a 5 low 8. You know, I'm typically not going to be playing this on offense, but it's nice in a pinch. And then 1 copy of Colossal Detonation. This is the ultimate deadlock card. If my rival has built a stage of like 20 foundations, I can call this up from my discard pile and play it. You might say, how are you going to pass a 12 diff and commit your character on the blitz? Triggers. You know, a couple triggers, a battle arena, 5 or 6 foundations. I can make it happen more often than not. I'm not playing a ton of deadlock, so this is the ultimate deadlock card. And that is going to do it for our 1x attacks here. So this is the attack package pretty much. Again, I also showed these 2 dimensional spheres earlier to help the disarming glance combo go off. But dimensional sphere and uppercut are really defensive. You know, they're attacks I'm using on defense mostly. When you actually look at my offense, this is it. And then detonation I'm only using really to blow up the stage if I know that my rival can't keep this from resolving. So this right here is pretty much how I'm killing people. And these really are just 1x utility cards. This is the base package. All right, that is it for attacks. Let's move on to our assets and then our remaining foundations here. I already showed off quite a bit of foundations and 3 Cape of No Returns, but every Mimic is 4xing 4 assets. There's 16 cards that every Mimic just needs to start with. Like if you're building Mimic, you just start with these 16 assets. And that is 4 copies of Soup, 4 copies of Knott's Flask, 4 copies of Trigger, and 4 copies of Vertical Maneuvering Equipment. Soup is better than a 0 diff foundation in Mimic. So I don't even play 0 difficulty foundations because of Soup. You can, as soon as you play this, you build it even on turn 1, and then you can use it to help you pass checks. You can use this in the middle of attack strings. You can get around breaker abilities with this. Like if you know if you just feel it that they're gonna breaker your first attack with like a Mikasa's Flying Knee Strike or something, then save this in your hand. You know, don't just play it right away, and then you can just get around the breaker, build it in, and nothing ever happened. It's also gonna help you get those damage on those lethal kill turns, because when we commit it, we get 1 damage and gain a health, but then we respond with Mimic. Basically, this is giving us 3 damage. Flask is basically giving us 5 damage on offense when we commit it, or minus 4 damage on defense when we commit it. Triggers is how you pass all of your checks, is responding with triggers. Yeah, really, you're only using it for that. I almost hardly ever use this response unless I'm really in a pinch. This remove, lose 2 health after you play an ability on your character, draw a card, and ready a foundation that hasn't been readied. I'm almost never using that top response, pretty much just using it because this counts as like 2 foundations. Or 3 foundations, really, over the course of a turn cycle. It's kind of cracked. And then we have Vertical Maneuvering Equipment, another Attack on Titan asset here, where we turbo out momentum with like the Determined Advances, the Rapid Speed Slashes. And so now we're going to use that momentum to say -3 or +3 speed, change the zone, and we can commit it for 2 damage and then respond with Mimic to make it 4 damage. And if we're hitting it back up, it just readies itself back up. It readies itself back up. That's a funny play on words. Okay. Yeah, those are the like holy 4 assets that all Mimics should be 4xing. And then we get to Battle Arena. It's a terrain, so we can't have more than 1 of it, but we can commit it for +2 to our check, and it's going to help us get that momentum. If we ever deal damage, we get an extra momentum that turn. We have 4x Gold Tips Imperial. We really, really want to be getting momentum every single turn. So what Gold Tips says is, if I played attacks and you blocked all of them, like I'm playing against a Rodan or somebody who actually likes blocking, there's not many of them in this format, but there's a few still. We got some Jins and Rodans out there. So if they block everything, I'm still going to get momentum. And what's nice is it's after your end phase. So even if you don't have one of these in stage, if they block everything and then you play it and build it, you can get your momentum from it. And if you block with it on defense, you get to build it in. Yeah, gold 4x on the Gold Tips. Then we got 4x on Fearsome Transformations. I don't have a lot of draw beyond the Walk the Dogs and the Rapid Speed Slashes and the Chivalrous Competitor, so we need our Fearsomes. We should always have that momentum. A couple Fast Friendships just for defense, flip for minus speed. 1 Pro Hero Rankings. I do find myself milling pretty quickly, especially with all the flasks. And so this says I can put 5 attacks back in, but really it's just for this commit, reveal my hand. I get damage for every foundation that I reveal this way. So If I'm not on a kill turn, I'm probably just using this to pass checks, right? This will be the first thing that I commit to pass a check, because I don't really want to commit anything other than this, the gold tips, and the triggers. I don't want to be committing my flasks or my cape of no returns or my VMEs to pass checks, for example. So pro hero rankings will just be used for that. And then on the lethal turn, if I have like a foundation or two in hand, hey, I can respond with Mimic, and this can like commit for like +4 damage. That's not nothing. And it's a 1 mid block. So just a 1x. And then finally on the actions, a couple runaways. I think it's probably the most powerful action maybe in the game at the moment. Lose X health and then stuff their card pool. You're keeping them off of momentum. You're making them really have to commit out to attack you. And a lot of times with Mimic, I'm winning on the backswing of people kind of disrespecting Mimic because he's such a low health 6-hander at only 25 health. I mean, that's only 2 health more than a lot of these 7-handers we got in Attack on Titan. So people tend to swing a little too hard at you. You can punish them with Runaway, and then you can kill them on the backswing. Or you can just keep those turn 2 kills from happening from like City Rampage decks, right? We want to hurt those City Rampage decks. So that is Mimic. I won't get too much into my sideboard because I've really got to hit the road. But yeah, I'm planning on winning Nationals with Mimic. I've only got a couple weeks of practice on this guy, but I've been playing against my brother a lot, who's also playing Mimic. So last year, my brother and I at Nationals, we both played Mirio, almost the exact same deck, and we both made top 32. And so this year, we're both playing Mimic. His list is quite a bit different than mine. I think my list is pretty unique with the Disarming Glance combo. I really like his list, though. He's doing other cool things that my list is not doing. Like Mimic, you could play this guy in a very powerful way, 100 different ways. I mean, you start with your soups, your flasks, your triggers, and your VMEs, but once you get into the attack lineup and the foundations that you're playing, you could go very, very different directions with your Mimic. So my brother's list is quite a bit different than mine, but I don't think mine is just heads and shoulders above his. It's just we have different strengths and different weaknesses. So hopefully the Disarming Glance super combo works out for me and I keep my rivals off of drawing. I should say the downside of the super combo is Mimic also cannot respond off the asset to go and pick up a card. But I think that's more than worth the trade-off to just absolutely shut off a Bertolt Living Weapon. For the other events, for Retro and MHA Spotlight, I will be playing Todoroki 1. For Attack on Titan Spotlight, I will be playing Reiner 1. And for the Teams event, I do plan on playing the Pony deck that I did a deck profile of, what was this? I think a couple weeks ago, or maybe even just 1 week ago. So I'm bringing 4 decks along with me. My Spotlight deck, I just take 10 cards out and I make it into my Retro Todoroki deck. But wish me luck. If you're there, come up and say hi and let's chat for a bit. It's going to be a fun weekend. I'm very much looking forward to it. I'll see you there.